everyone. Welcome to Talking GPA. I'm your host, Amy, and today we are going to be talking about the things I wish I knew about college and my experience so that you guys don't have to go through the same thing. So get a snack, get comfortable, because it's going to be an hour long of basically me ranting about all of the decisions that I decided to make throughout my decisions of college. So we're going to start off with the fact that there was definitely no choice of me wanting to go through a specific career path. I was very much like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of following the train, kind of following along with other people, hoping I'm doing the right thing. So I, growing up, was told, get good grades, because good grades make you certain that you're going to get some scholarships. Little did I know, I actually had to, apply to those. Those were not given to me. And so I found that out a little late in life. I found that out probably during COVID when I was in sophomore to junior year. And I was like, oh, I didn't know about that. And then also, that college is a lot more expensive than I thought. In my brain, I thought college was, pretty expensive. But then when I actually saw, if I wanted to go to an out-of-state college, that was going to be some big bucks. So for most of my life, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I kind of liked animals, and so I said, I would love to be a veterinarian because I love animals. But then I found out that that's actually a lot more complicated than that, than liking animals. And so I didn't want to go through that. Definitely did not like math. Even though I'm Asian, definitely did not like doing math. And then I liked culinary, but wasn't very good at it, and I didn't see myself making a career out of that. And I could go on about every other career path, but basically none of them sounded interesting to me. And so then I got a therapist during COVID, and that was very interesting. I was going through some stuff, but also one of the main things was that I didn't know what to do once I got out of high school. And so my therapist was very much trying to guide me into the direction that I wanted to go in, but I didn't know where I was going, so how did they know? But nonetheless, I went on for a few sessions with my therapist, and then got to the point where I felt like I could do better at being a therapist than they were being a therapist for me. So then I was like, well, what if I just go be a therapist? What if I just did that? And so that was when my interest started to peak around senior year, where I was like, what if I want to do that? But still wasn't 100% certain. And then it was getting very close to the graduation of senior year. And I was like, well, gonna be doing psychology. That's gonna be the thing that I'm gonna choose. Because I didn't care about sociology, which is how people interact with one another. I kind of more cared about self and the mind. So I was like, psychology is the way to go. So that's kind of how I chose to do psychology in the beginning. And then I had to choose where I was going to do that. And then that was the other thing. So I was thinking about going to an out-of-state college. For a long time, I was like, oh, I'm going to go to UCLA. I'm going to go Bruins. I would love to live in California, as most people do. But as we said before, it's expensive. And so definitely was not going to happen. So all the other options out of state, I was like, are going to be equally or not more expensive. So I'm going to do in-state. And so I was looking at a whole bunch of different colleges and universities. And I live in Arizona, so we got Arizona State University, U of A, and NAU, which were the three that I saw. Obviously, there's like GCU and other universities, but those were the 3 that I saw. So then I was like, I'm gonna go tour them because I have to see how the campuses look. Like, what if they're pretty? Or what if they're ugly? I don't know. What if I don't like the campus? Then I'm not gonna go. So I went to NAU first in January of 2022, and it was very nice. I loved it. I somehow got into the honors program into NAU, and so the kind of tour that I took was showing me the campus, but also I got to take like a mock class, which showed me like what a class could look like. And so it was just like a discussion with other students, and it was all right. It was cool, I guess, but not very like, oh wow, this feels like a class. It was just like, let's talk about our interests and see how we all like this campus. So that was my experience with NAU. It was all right. Nothing very like impactful where I was just like, oh my god, I have to be in this college. Like, I have to be in NAU. So then I went to U of A. And U of A was very, I would say, like, if you could imagine a community college, just a bigger version of that. It was the whole campus was very much like nearby everything. It was kind of nice. It was just like, okay, you got buildings, and then a lawn in the middle, which is honestly pretty nice, which is in Tucson, which is definitely not Phoenix or Flagstaff. So it was kind of a farther drive, but overall, nice too, I guess. Definitely did not take a class there. Didn't look at any classrooms or stuff or anything like that. But I saw it and I was like, wow, this is really nice. Sure, this is a cool campus. And then I was like, well, that's it. Like, I'm gonna go to U of A. My choice is U of A. Didn't go to ASU. I was like, I don't need to see that campus. So in my mind, at that time, I was like, I'm gonna go to U of A. That is my goal, to go to U of A. Definitely did not care about what programs they had, if they were better programs, if people, like the actual research of it, of how the career outlook of your degree from that college, or how the teachers are, or anything nearby. Kind of these important factors that play into wanting to actually go to that college. So, point number 1, definitely look into that. I would say it's very important for you. If you have a specific degree that you already know you want to go into, do your research. So look up the degree, look up the outlook, look up the teachers that are part of that school, what surrounds it, and things like that. Those are very important, which I wish I knew. But nonetheless, I was like, I'm gonna go U of A. And then I end up with kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And my parents were like, so, do you already know how you're gonna get to the campus? Do you already know what classes you're gonna go into? Do you already know A, B, C, D, E, F, G? And I said, no, I don't. And we started getting closer to graduation, which was in May. This was around April, where I start freaking out. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to be doing with my life. So, another little mental breakdown. But at the end, I was like, it's going to be way too expensive to be able to move straight out of high school into university at U of A. So, I was like, I'm going to go to community college, I guess, because that seems like the best option, you know? And if we rewind a little bit, zoop, I have applied to all 3 of these in-state colleges. Applied to U of A, NAU, and ASU. Got into all 3. There are merit scholarships as well, part of the universities, which is if you have your X grades, you can get X amount of scholarship. And that's pretty nice because you kind of get paid a little bit for your classes. Not all of it, but it's a good amount. That still wasn't going to be able to cover what my parents thought of to pay. They were like, we're not going to pay that much still. So I was like, okay, well, guess I'm going to go to community college. And the good thing is that my high school kind of already gave us a login for community college. So if there's people that really didn't know what they wanted to do after high school, if they weren't going to go to university, they're going to have them log in and make a login for the community college. So in my hometown, we have Arizona Western College. So what we did, we signed up for it, and you already have a login for whenever you get out of high school and you're kind of interested into going into community college. You got that login, you got everything set. So all you have to do is look at a program, a degree, and just kind of sign up and get classes. So it's honestly pretty nice because I wouldn't have known to do that, because once I kind of was like, oh, going to university is expensive, let's go to community college, I didn't really have to do all that confusing steps of going to getting login, because I already had it given to me from my high school. So then we get to graduation. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to community college. Since this was a very much last minute decision for me to kind of throw everything away of what I wanted to do, where it was going to outside my city to go to U of A, I am now going to stay and do community college. And so now I had to figure out how to get a degree, like get a program, and then also sign up for classes, which were a little confusing. So graduated, yay, so much fun. Now I had to see how I'm going to kind of get my program. So since I already knew I was going to do psychology, I was able to log into my self-service, which differs from college to college, but is around the same concept of kind of having your hub, which is your finances, your classes, kind of all this campus like information all in one place. And so in Arizona Western College, it's the self-service. And so I was able to go there and go to my academics and then see which program I wanted to go into, which was psychology/sociology associates of arts. And so that was very nice. I saw that. And then now there's a giant requirement section, which was very confusing at the time because my parents are not from the US. They came here before I was born and don't really know the American system. So then I was born and now I kind of have to figure everything out. And so I was like, I don't know who to ask for this information. I don't know where to go. I've gone to Arizona Western College once, which was in 5th grade, to see the community college, and that was about it. I have never toured it. I don't know where the offices are. Don't know none of this. But you know who does? One of my friends. So I called up my friend and was like, hey girl, so I know you're going to community college. Could you help me out in kind of getting my classes? And so she was like, yes, for sure. So I was like, wonderful. And so then she helps me out. We kind of figure out this whole situation with getting my classes. And I really didn't know what I was doing. We went to the offices where all the different information is, where transfer services, academic services, scholarships, and all of that information. So we went there, and I was like, well, maybe they're going to be able to help me. No one had the answers that I kind of wanted, which were like, what am I supposed to be doing? So we sat like in the lobby, and she was helping me out with choosing my classes. And I was like, I don't really want to take a lot. I want to take maybe like 4. Let's start out with 4, you know? So she goes down my list, and she was like, okay, well, you have to take English. And I was like, perfect. So she goes, English 100. And I said, wonderful. Because I trust her. I know what she's doing. Like, I'm like, she knows what she's doing, so I'm gonna trust her too. So I took English 100, Psychology 101, I think Sociology also, and Sociology 101, and there was a fourth class, but I don't really remember that one. So I was like, wonderful, got that started, and now I have to figure out how to pay this. Because in high school, I did get one scholarship for dance, and so I was like, how am I going to use that to be able to pay for my college? So I kind of I had a check, and I didn't know where to give it to, because I had to sign up for classes, obviously, to be able to pay for the classes. So had to figure out where the financial advisors people were, and finally found them. Was like, great, thank you. Here's my check. And so they're like, okay, I don't know how to process this. And I was very confused because I thought that the name was not, like, I literally just had a check that was signed by someone else. I just was like, I just need to give this to someone else. So I was like, I hope this isn't wrong. And they were having a hard time figuring out if it was good or not. And so I was kind of like standing there very awkwardly and nervous because I was like, I hope you guys can process it. And at the end, they were able to. So I was like, why are you guys giving me this heart attack for no reason? So I paid for my classes. I had my classes done. Also, side note, I took a math class when I was in high school as a dual enrollment. So I was able to, instead of taking an AP class where people had to take an exam to kind of get a credit for a college. I still don't know how AP classes work, but that's from my understanding of it. I've never taken an AP class in my life, but I did take dual enrollment. And so I took a math class in the fall, which was math 150, and then I took another class in the spring, which was math 183. And so those were very nice because then I didn't have to take a math class in college. I had them done already when I was in high school. So math was not one of my worries. So I am ready. I'm ready for the first day of school because I am prepared now. So first day of school rolls up. I'm like, wow, I'm so ready. My classes were on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then I had a Wednesday class at 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., which was my English class. Very weird, but didn't question it because I was just like, I did sign up very late, so this makes sense. I show up to my Tuesday class. Great, wonderful, loved it. Showed up to my Wednesday class at 6 p.m. And I sit down, and I know different walks of life go to college. And so I was like, okay, well, there's a lot of older people. Like, I don't think it's weird for me to say I feel like I'm the youngest one here. But I didn't question anything. And so then my teacher starts talking, and slowly I'm like, she's talking about how to write a paragraph and creative writing, which feels very much like 101, like basics. Not like 101 as in English 101. It feels like the basics of how to write a paragraph. And also this class was just 3 hours long, which I was like, why is it 3 hours long? But again, I didn't ask any questions. I go through that the first week, and then Thursday rolls around, again, same thing as Tuesday, finish that week. Great, wonderful, I feel like I did great. So, next week rolls around. It goes Tuesday, Wednesday, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., and then Thursday. Then Thursday, I think to myself, wow, this English class feels really like, I feel like I'm learning how to write for the first time. Like, I know how to write, but it feels like this is like baby steps, like I'm learning how to write again. And I was like, well, let me try to figure this out. And then I had the genius idea of going into my self-service and see my progress. So my progress is the enrollment requirements. So every class that I need to take before I graduate. And as I'm looking, I'm like, okay, so what is my English requirement? Because I'm like, it has to be there. And that's when I find out I was taking the wrong class. I was supposed to be taking English 101, not English 100. So then I scroll farther down, and at the bottom, where it says extra, I find out that I was taking math English 100. And so I'm like, I'm not taking this English class just for fun. I need it to count for something. So I look up, hey, like, when can I drop this class? I oopsie daisy signed up for the wrong one. And the add drop period passed because it was that first week of school. So I'm like, oops, I'm screwed. So then I'm like, there's no way I can add a class. And if I drop the class, I'm going to lose the money because of the class that I'm going to drop. But I'm like, I'm still either way not going to stay in this class. There's no reason for me to stay a 3-hour class if I don't need it to count for something. Like, it's not counting for something, so there's no reason for me to have it. So then I rush the following day to the offices, and I'm like, I need to speak to someone. I don't know who, but I start speaking to this guy, and this guy's like, hey, what are you doing here? And I'm like, hey, I need to drop this class and also add an English 100 because I'm taking the wrong class now, but I can't drop the class on my own self-service. I have to have you drop it, and then I need you to add the other class to be able to have it on my schedule. And so he's like, okay, let me look it up. So he starts looking it up, and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to take this math English class anymore because it's too late. Like, I was too late. I caught it too late, and I'm not going to be able to anymore. So he looks it up on his system. He drops my class, my English class, and then he finds an English 101 that's going to start in a week. And he goes, hey, there's this English class that's going to start in a week. Do you want me to enroll you now? And I said, yes, please do it now. And he said, okay, just so you know, you're not going to get that money back from the class that you dropped. And now you're going to have to pay again for this English class. And I said, I don't care. I need this class, please. And they said, okay. And so then I got my English class added to my schedule. And finally, I could breathe because for once I did something right. Even though I didn't, I like to say that I did. Because if I didn't drop that class, I would have never, if I didn't actually look at my progress sheet, I would have never figured out that I was taking the wrong class. I would have continued to take that English 100 class, and I probably wouldn't have graduated when I did, because I wouldn't have taken English 101. I would have taken English 100. So that's kind of my chaotic story of signing up for my first semester of class. Afterwards, everything started to be a little bit easier. I figured out that I could take winter and summer classes, so I started to kind of space all my classes to be a little bit easier for me to digest. So in the fall, I took 4 classes, and then winter, I took 1 class. Spring, I took another 4 classes, summer, 2, and so forth. Kind of like spread them out so that I could breathe a little bit, and it's fine. I was giving myself a lot more work over breaks, like winter break and summer break, but I still felt like I was doing something, which felt really nice. So I recommend taking maybe 1 winter class if you are available to take a winter class, and if not, take a summer class because it's fine. If you're in community college, if you're in university, it's a lot more expensive. So I understand if you can't, okay? But from my community college experience, I feel like you should definitely take advantage of that. So by my second year of a community college, which was my last year, I started to have to think about where I was going to go to transfer. And I was like, well, now that I'm thinking about it, U of A is really far away, and NAU, I wasn't very convinced, and I also that wasn't my top, like, school where I was like, I'm going to go. And so then I was like, well, what if I go to ASU? Like, that sounds nice. And so I did not look at the campus at all. Didn't do any of that. And I was like, well, I already have the login. I already like applied and got in technically. So I can just kind of transfer over my credits and just go to ASU. So then I started to do research, as one does, on what programs they have and what degrees they have. And I saw that they had like psychology and then also forensic psych. And I was like, wait a minute, like criminal minds? That's cool. Let me do that. Just so you know, criminal minds that's not forensic psych. That they don't, kind of, not really, but that's another story for another time. But nonetheless, I was like, forensic psych, very interesting. Law and psychology, sign me up. And so, bam, made my decision to go to ASU. So, signed up for ASU. I'm ready to transfer. I go to talk to my advisor. This is the first time I've ever talked to an advisor, which I don't recommend. I feel like you should talk to an advisor a good amount of times because they might help you. I don't know. My experience is not the best, but that doesn't mean that your experience can't be better. So I go to my advisor. I'm like, hey, I want to transfer to ASU. Can I do that? And she click-clacks on her keyboard, looks at me, and goes, well, you have great grades. You're doing good. Yeah, you can transfer to ASU. Let me give you all of these different links, and you can figure them out. Okay, have fun. And she kind of sends me outside, and I'm done. That was the end of my advisor meeting. And I was even more lost than before because now I had to look at different websites that were very not helpful. I mean, one of them was about the Phi Theta Kappa, which is an honor society for community college, which was a very interesting experience because I don't think the advisor for that club liked me. But it was okay, I guess. And then another link was about doing my path to ASU, and that one actually was helpful. And so what it helped me with was putting in my degree in my college, and then it showed me what classes I could take at my community college so I can transfer them over to ASU. Because even though I have like my AJEC, which is like my generals, I can have all these extra classes that transfer over so that I have to do even less once I'm at ASU, which was great. And so as I was looking at that, I was like, oh, math. Why does this look weird? What's up with a math class? And then I see that I need Math 151 and Math 183. And that's when I'm like, oh, I'm screwed. What do you mean Math 151 and Math 183? I've taken Math 150 and 183. So, since this is my last year, I do have four semesters to be able to take this math class. And I was so sad. I was heartbroken because I said, what do you mean I took a math class in high school that doesn't transfer over to a college? Like, I was so upset about that. But nonetheless, I took that class over the winter, got an A, yay. No thinking about math for the rest of my life ever again, period. So happy. So once I took that math class, I was so happy. I'm done with math. No more. Give me that math and take it away. I'm done. So once we have that, I went to spring and was like, okay, maybe I should go visit the campus that I'm going to be staying at. So I actually did it. It was during spring break, And I realized, hey, other universities also have spring break, not just mine. So once I showed up, there was no one there. It was absolutely empty, and I felt like if I went onto the campus, I felt like I would be trespassing. Even though I didn't know that there was actual people, like still, like there would still be people on in spring break on campus. But at that time, I was like, I'm not getting off. There's literally no one in the parking lot, and there's no reason for me to get off. So my parents and I are just in the car, and we just like drive through the front of the school and just kind of observe what's going on between like the halls. And then we just made a U-turn and then got out. And we are just like, that's plenty. We got enough information. That looks like a cool school. Can't wait to go and actually be in it. So that was my visit to ASU. And also, because my degree is a new college degree, which is the college that is pertains to my degree, that is only on West Valley. So I didn't even visit Tempe campus. I visited West Valley campus, which is kind of like a community college, but bigger, but not as big as U of A. So we kind of did a drive by, and it looked nice. It looked nice, and I was like, wow, this looks great. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And we left. And so that's kind of my experience in community college and trying to transfer out. I very much recommend going to community college. It saves you a lot of money, and also the flexibility of trying to see what other degrees you want to do. I feel like is really easy in community college compared to an actual university, because I feel like they implement most of your classes depending on your degree. So you're not really missing out on much when you're in community college because you're just doing your generals. So if you decide to switch last minute, you're all good. I mean, it might take you a little bit longer, but not too much that causes a disturbance. But yeah, definitely go to a community college if you are able to. But unless you want that university experience, then I can't blame you for wanting to actually go to a 4-year university. So my advice to you is always make sure that you are taking the right classes if you're already in college. Make sure always be checking your progress sheet, your, requirement sheet, whatever it's called. Always make sure you're checking it to make sure you're on track, because sometimes you might think you are and then find out you're taking the wrong class that you weren't even supposed to be taking in the first place. So double check on that always. That's going to be it for the first episode of Talking GPA. Some might be longer, some might be shorter, but for now, this is a good sense of what each episode might be like. And I can't wait to talk to you guys later. Bye.